Hello, everyone. We will give everyone some time to join us in this webinar, and then we will get started. Okay, the numbers are rising. We will wait just a little bit longer. Welcome to TMA's Empowerment Clinic, Overcoming Caregiver Stress Syndrome. My name is Rachel Bromley. I am TMA's Senior Manager of Patient Education, Support, and Advocacy. And it is my honor to introduce you to one of our favorite speakers. We have heard her speak at several of our conferences, virtual summits, webinars. She has always been available to the myositis community, and we are very grateful for her. Natasha D'Arcangelo, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. Hi, everybody. I am Natasha D'Arcangelo. I use she, her pronouns, and I come to you live from Orlando, Florida. I am a licensed mental health counselor, and I was really excited to be able to partner with the Myositis Association back in what year was it you had your conference in Orlando? Was it last year? The year before?
No, it was the year before. Yes.
Okay, so we've been working together ever since. So I'm really excited to come on today and hopefully shed some light on this particular syndrome. But I hope more importantly have folks leave with some concrete coping skills that might help improve quality of life for everybody involved. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up my PowerPoint, and the cat, of course, just realized that I'm starting. So this is Dara. She is my work from home assistant, right?
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
nice. And then I wanted to say before you got started, I don't know, you may have included this in your presentation, but as you know, our community, we like the word care partner. And we typically use care partner because caregiving we seem to think of as like the actual help that you give, whether that's help dressing, help toileting, what have you. But being a care partner is, a relationship. It's a partnership between the person with the illness and the person providing care. And so it just, over time, we have chosen that. However, the syndrome is not named care partner. And so
Mhm.
that's why we included it in here in this way. So thank
Yeah.
you.
And I decided to leave it as caregiver because that's what most of the literature refers to. Even though I know that care partner is really the terminology, I thought it was a little too confusing to go back and forth. So I just stuck with what the literature was telling us. So
Absolutely.
um,
Absolutely.
so I'm a licensed mental health counselor in Florida, Washington, and Oregon, and really hopeful that my mental health background can just shed some light on some different things today. So thank you everybody for being here. All right, so I figured the best thing to start with is what is caregiver syndrome, right? Kind of good to start with the definition so that we can all be on the same page. And it is defined as a state of emotional, mental, or physical exhaustion that can affect that person's ability to give care, to be present for the person. Now, what ends up happening is that being a caregiver is highly demanding, and it can make it difficult to provide care for your own needs first. You're kind of caught in this in between. Obviously, you care about the person, you love them, you want to help them, and you're also a human and you have your own needs as well. So sometimes you kind of get caught in this in between where there's a lot of conflicting emotions. You may feel angry, you may feel resentful, and then you feel guilty for feeling angry and resentful, even though at the same time you love this person and you want to be helping them, and you know that they need you, you know that you are an important part of their lives, and that can be incredibly confusing to have all of this different stuff going on at the same time. Okay, so there are different factors that can increase the stress levels when we're talking about folks in this particular role if you're a care partner. That can be caring for a spouse, if you are living with the person that needs the care, if you are caring for someone that needs constant care. So, you know, maybe there's like round the clock stuff that needs to be happening. They're not really able to be independent, right? Feeling alone is a really, really common thing that tends to happen many times. And I heard this when I was at the conference, both when I presented in person as well as virtually earlier this year. It really feels like you're the only person going through this situation, which is, it just makes everything so much worse. It's so incredibly isolating. And that kind of is a negative cycle that feeds into itself, because that kind of emotion will also prevent you from reaching out for help in addition to that. Oftentimes you can feel helpless or depressed. You may be having financial issues. We know that the healthcare system in this country really has some incredible challenges when it comes to even simple medical conditions, much less complex long-term things, right? If you're spending too many hours caregiving, if you don't have very much guidance from healthcare professionals, and that's some of the frustration that I've heard from folks as well in the myositis community. Doctors tend to essentially kind of throw you out there into the wild and are like, well, we'll see you in 3 months for follow-up, kind of, you know, good luck. Feeling as though you have no choice about being a caregiver and not having any good coping or problem solving skills of your own, and then feeling as though you have to be on at all times. It's like all you all the time from go, right? So these are different factors that can increase caregiver stress. Let's talk a little bit about what are some symptoms that might tell you that there are things going on that you need to be paying attention to. You may feel burdened, or you may be worrying all the time. So it's just this constant loop that's playing in your head, and you cannot find the remote control. There's no way for you to stop that loop. You may feel tired often, regardless of how much sleep you're getting. It's just like you're always dragging. That can be a sign that even if you are like in bed technically for 8 hours, you're not actually getting good quality sleep. You're maybe not completing all the sleep cycles that you need to. You may be sleeping too much, or on the other end of the spectrum, you may not be sleeping enough. Same thing with gaining or losing weight. You may be overeating to compensate as like a stress response. And then I've also seen, again, the other end of the spectrum where folks will, like they have no appetite. And so what I always ask people when I'm assessing these kinds of things is, have you gained or lost weight unintentionally? So you know, you haven't changed your diet on purpose, or you're not exercising a lot. That can be a sign that you may be under a significant amount of stress. An increase in irritability. So maybe something that typically would kind of roll off your back, and you just would keep going on with your day. All of a sudden you're really snappy, and you're finding that it just feels overwhelming to you. You know, it could be as simple as, I don't know, the grocery store was out of like 2% milk. And you know, maybe you're like screaming at the clerk in the grocery store. You know, that can be a sign that there's something going on. You're losing interest in activities that you used to enjoy. Maybe you were a dedicated reader, or you were a dedicated runner, and now you just don't have, it's like you think about it and you're like, I don't really have any kind of interest in doing that. You find that you're feeling sad a lot of the times. My best description of that is sometimes it can feel as though there's this invisible cloud hanging over your head. Nobody else can see it, but just always feels like it's there. You may be experiencing frequent headaches or other body aches, or just general health problems. Maybe you're misusing alcohol or drugs, and that does include prescription medicines. I actually was working with a client about a year ago, and she was a caregiver for an ailing parent. And there was one point where she was really, really tempted to take her parents. She was on heavy, heavy duty painkillers at that time. And she was, you know, they were in the house with her, and they were prescribed to her parent, and she was very tempted to use them. Maybe you're missing your own medical appointments. You're neglecting your own needs as a result of all of this. So, little bit of background as to some of the contributing factors, as well as some of the symptoms that you may be experiencing. So my hope is that we can switch that over to what can we do about it? The first thing I think is oftentimes the most difficult. That is to ask for and also accept help. I know that that may look like super simple words. It's not so easy to put into play. I want you to try to think about how that can look realistically in your corner of the universe. Oftentimes, people will reach out to us and say, how can I help? What can I do? So, what I encourage folks to do is actually have a list of tasks that they may be able to help with. Maybe it's you need help coordinating transportation to and from doctor's appointments. Maybe it would be helpful if somebody brought you a meal one night so you didn't have to think about what you were going to be making for dinner. Maybe it would be helpful if somebody could, kind of help you gather up medical records or things like that. So, a lot of times when we get to that overwhelmed place, we don't know what to do to ask for help. And so if you're putting together a concrete list that you can just refer to, that's an easier way for you to navigate what that conversation looks like. At some point or another, we're all going to need help with something. So there's no shame in reaching out and asking for that help. Another really big thing is being able to focus on what you are able to control. Oftentimes, when we're dealing with a chronic, serious illness, it can feel like I don't even know where to turn. I don't even know what to do. I want to undo this. I wish I had the power to take this away from my loved one. And I've heard that before from clients that I've worked with. And I know as much as you wish that you could just take this diagnosis away, make this illness go away, that is unfortunately not something that is within your power. And if you're spending your time and energy in that mind space, it's not going to help you or your loved one. So instead, let's shift over to today, what am I able to control? And those are things like I'm going to sit in on the doctor's appointment with them, or I'm going to do a little bit of research before we go to the next appointment. And I'm going in with a list of questions. I'm going to make sure we always have like a list of medications handy and readily available so that anybody that's in the care network is aware of what those things are. I'm going to help make the house more accessible. I can help to make sure that they're getting the things that they need in order to maybe move more comfortably up and down stairs, get a stool for the shower or a seat for the shower for them. Focus on the things that you're able to control. Much better use of your time and energy. Set goals that you're able to reach. So this comes down to you know you're not going to be able to get them to the place where they're fully recovered within a year, right? But a goal that you can reach is, maybe finding them an occupational therapist that's pretty close to the house and helping them get set up with that occupational therapist, and then maybe working on some of those exercises together at home, right? You always want to try to think about what are you able to control in your corner of the universe, even when it seems like you're facing this huge insurmountable thing. I'm really glad that you're here on the webinar because you've already accomplished the next point that I have on my slide here. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Get connected to caregiving resources in your area. Now, depending on where you're located, you may not have something physically available to you specifically related to myositis, but there are probably other caregiving resources in your area. Maybe there's like a respite care. Maybe there are other communities of caregivers or care partners. Do a little bit of Googling and see what's available to you. And it's important that you get connected to what those things are. Maybe there's like a meal train or something like that that's in your area that you can participate in. Join a support group. And so that's why I'm glad that the folks that are here tonight are here and participating in some of the resources that are available to you. If you spent any kind of time on the website, there's just amazing information on the Myositis Association site. I know that they do conferences, they do webinars like this. I get all the mailings and the magazines are very helpful. So there's a lot available just on the Myositis Association site. So really take your time, kind of poke around, see what's available on there. There are previously recorded things. There's different communities that you can connect to. Take advantage to that, because especially with myositis, the people that are really going to get it are the people that are also living through the same thing, right? So yes, it's important to find caregiving resources in your area. It is also important that you are connected to folks that understand myositis and what that means and what that looks like for day-to-day life. It is also important that you seek out social support. So those are going to be your friends. Those are going to be, if it, depending on your family, it could also be family. And it doesn't have to be a, we're going out to dinner every other night kind of thing. It could be, you have somebody kind of on standby. Maybe today was particularly overwhelming and you just need to talk to somebody for 5 to 10 minutes just to get a little bit off your chest. It is important. I mean, no man is an island, and we are built evolutionarily to be social creatures, so you do have to be connected to other people. Okay, and that's another one of those things when people ask you, what can I do to help? Well, can you be on standby if I'm having a really overwhelming day and I just need somebody to talk to? I can't stress this next one enough, but you have to take care of you. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And so you have to make sure that you are sleeping. If you're not, please go talk to your doctor. You have to make sure that you are continuing to eat and eat things that fuel your body, right? You are what you eat. Make sure that you're trying to exercise. And again, think about what that looks like for you in your life. I'm not saying you need to go run 20 miles every day. Although if you can, please have at it. But even a walk around the neighborhood can get you moving, can get you outside of your house, and can continue to help improve or at least maintain your mental health. And then finally, make sure that you are seeking out help from your not your loved one, your healthcare professionals. You need to make sure you're keeping up with your own physical appointments, any kind of vaccinations that might be due. Do you need to get blood work done, right? When was the last time you did those kinds of things for yourself? If you're not taking care of you, you're not going to be able to take care of anybody else. And then finally, as a mental health professional, I also have to stress the importance of there is absolutely no shame in seeking help from a mental health professional. I'm currently the clinical director of a local behavioral health nonprofit, but when I was doing individual sessions, there were many clients that came to me because somebody in their universe was diagnosed with a serious illness. And they were struggling because they now became a care partner. And in some cases, it completely upended their lives. There is absolutely nothing wrong with talking to a mental health professional about what that means for you and your life. The dynamics in your relationship are going to change, your stress levels are going to change, what day-to-day life even is going to change, right? You may now be having to outfit your house so that it's wheelchair accessible. I mean, that's a huge adjustment to make. You may be having struggles with your work, trying to get time off to be able to take your loved one to all these different appointments. There's absolutely no shame in being able to talk to a mental health professional just to process those things and be able to get an objective viewpoint on it. And your therapist should also be able to help you problem solve some of these things, maybe even connect you to some different resources. So I would absolutely encourage you to seek out some kind of mental health help. It doesn't have to be forever, but maybe at least when that initial diagnosis happens and you're having those feelings of overwhelm, it doesn't hurt to talk to somebody. Okay, I don't want to take up too much time, so I'll end it there. This is me, and then that's a picture of my little puppy dog. She is a therapy dog, and her name is Celeste. And if you have any follow-up questions, I mean, I'm going to be on for the next little bit, but these are a couple of different ways to get in touch with me. She actually came up to hang out for a little bit, so I might hold her up at the end so everybody can see her. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you could put your email in the chat for people who didn't have time to copy it from the slide, that would be lovely. Thank you so
I can
much.
certainly do.
All right. Well, also with us today, we have one of my favorite, I've had my favorite speaker, and then one of my favorite volunteers. I've got Mariel Parker, and she is community members and volunteers, and has helped us in the past. She was one of the panelists for care partner panel we had at the annual patient conference just a couple of months ago. It's just the time flying by, isn't it? So Mary, go ahead and tell.
I apologize. It seems as there may be a little lag, but yes, thank you so much for welcoming me. As I was just introduced, my name is Myositis Parker, and my background is in healthcare administration and clinical research. So I come with that level of interest with this particular disease topic. However, today I lead with being a daughter, and my father, who I happen to be recording this now, sitting in my father's office, and you'll see his photos or artwork behind me, his mobile chair behind me as well. So I guess it's apropos that I'm sitting here speaking on this topic. But my father was diagnosed with inclusion body myositis in around 2010, 2011, in that time period that we were going to the multitude of doctors to try to determine exactly what was going on. And at that point, I happened to have worked in a hospital. At that time, I was working in breast cancer research. And so I knew a multitude of clinicians, and was helping to kind of orchestrate follow-ups and consultations for my father at that time, when we had no idea what we would be dealing with, what the future would behold. And so through the course of time, about 5 years later, after we had the diagnosis and we began to understand what inclusion body myositis was and what the trajectory might look like, we began to make some very challenging decisions as a family. And I am an only child, and I have one daughter. So my parents have one grandchild, and their one daughter is me. So I say that because that meant that every decision that we made was as a family unit, and we were so blessed to be able to make decisions together. And I'll get into why that was really important in our situation. My father passed away in December of this last year, and so it has been a little bit of a challenge, obviously, for us to be able to adjust to not having him with us. But I'm so grateful, immensely grateful for the years that we did have together. And so that was one of the things that I did want to talk about when we talk about the family unit as a care partner. I think it was so integral to facilitating the amount of time that my dad was with us. And I know that everyone doesn't have that opportunity. Everyone doesn't have family to be able to pull around. My mom happens to be a retired public health nurse. As I said, I came from with a healthcare background as well. And my daughter was a very dedicated granddaughter. So all together, we pulled together and utilized every possible resource we could to help to take care of my dad. And when I say that, a lot of what Natasha stated was just spot on. Really, every one of those aspects that she shared was exactly what we tried to do in terms of implementing in our household. As my father, as his disease started to progress and he started to have more falls, we decided that it would be ideal to live in the same household. And when I say we decided, really, it was my father's idea. It was his request, because he, as a veteran, a Marine veteran, I think he knew what it would take, an uphill battle maybe, through the years. And so he said to give himself the best chance at fighting this as long as he could, and to be able to have as much joy in his life as possible. He had one request, and that was for us to all converge into one household. And so we did that. And I can honestly say that I'm certain my father would not have lived as long as he did if we had not made that choice. we found a home that was multi-generational in design, and we installed ramps throughout so that he would be able to have as much joy as possible. But you know, when it comes to talking about the care partner role and the syndrome of around caregiving, it is astonishingly real. And because I came from the background I thought that I was managing all of these things, all of these balls I was juggling in the air, and doing quite well with it, until I ultimately found myself going to a neurologist myself because I was having significant muscle spasms, and was a little bit concerned about my own health and wondering if that was a precursor to inclusion body myositis or something else. And it turned out, after extensive testing, they you know, assessed the amount of sleep that I was getting, which was really the amount of sleep I was not getting, because I was being a care partner. I generally, throughout the after work hours, I would work all day, pick up my daughter from school, come home, cook dinner for everyone, get some work done, help my daughter with homework, maybe catch a little nap if I could. And then my shift was around midnight with my father. And so we had a medical aide who would come in in the day, and my mother would help as well. However, that seemed to be the time that there was a little bit of a gap in coverage. And so fortunately, I was right upstairs in the house, and so I would come right here into my dad's office where he would be. Generally speaking, at that time, he slept, even when he was healthy, only about 4 hours a night. So that was not different for him. I think that stemmed from the military. I did not get that gene, and so I was used to having a healthier, you know, routine. But when my dad's illness progressed, I would come down and I have to ensure that he had water, ensure that he had a snack if he could. He had significant dysphagia, so I had to sit with him to help to make sure that he wasn't choking, to be able to discern whether this cough was because of a choke or because of just clearing the throat. So, anyway, I ultimately had the effects of that lack of sleep on myself, and so I had to make some adjustments as best I could, because at the end of the day, I'm a mom, and a 24/7 mom, divorced mom. So I needed to make sure that my priorities were there. However, that was my dad. And so I juggled with the fact that he needed that care, and I was just going to have to find deep inside some way to be able to find the energy and the ability to be able to do what he needed. It became challenging with physically. Ultimately, as my dad was in this permobile, obviously it couldn't lift that. You know, over 500 pounds, of course. But prior to that, he was using a rollator or a walker or a transfer type of mobile wheelchair that would collapse, and we would put in the car, and I'd have to lift that weight. We have a lift to stand device. I would have to, you know, if we were going to leave the home, or perhaps a little day trip or something of that nature, I'd have to collapse that and place that in the vehicle. My little daughter, from, you know, she was helping, living in the same home as well from the age of 7 up until this year, of course, with my dad's passing. She's now 14. So she was used to helping me to lift that equipment into the car. So the demands are never ending. We had, when we would go to our beach house, which I would try to encourage my dad to go to as much as possible, so that there would be a change of scenery, a change of pace, and maybe escape the world of inclusion body myositis for a brief period if we could. But what did that mean for the care partners? It means lifting all that equipment into the car, and then back out of the car, and then into the unit, and then assembling it. That's toilet chairs, toilet lifts, just a numerous amount of.
And travel can be just so extensive, and a lot of people do avoid it because of that. I was wondering about, I mean, in those 7 years, would you say that the feelings of stress or burnout or caregiver syndrome, was it cyclical? Was it linear? Were you just exhausted all the time? Or did you have ups and downs that you could kind of foresee triggers of it coming and try to prevent it? Or what was that flow like for you and your family?
I don't think it was cyclical at all. I think it really was an upward trajectory because as my father's health declined, the work became harder, and I could see what was happening before my eyes. And so I think, we just stepped forward with even more energy and even more commitment. I don't know where that would come from, but from within, from love, really, and doing probably what was ultimately not healthy and not sustainable. But when you realize that there is an endpoint coming, um, the commitment that I approached this with was that I didn't want to have any regrets. And so I knew that there would be value in putting forth 150%, 200%, because someday I wouldn't have the opportunity.
What would you say was the impact on your child taking on a caregiver role alongside you?
Yes, that's a really good question, Rachel. And I'm glad that you asked that because I think this is an area that is not addressed enough, to be honest. There are many children who are, required to serve in that role and in that capacity. And often adults don't think about them as being care partners. They think that they're just in the periphery, and that's not at all it. In our household, my daughter was just as much hands-on in terms of ensuring that her grandfather had his water cups constantly refilled, helping him to eat at towards the end of the trajectory when his hands and arms wouldn't work. She's helping to feed him just as I was, as my mother was. If something dropped on the floor, she was there. And so as we were talking about this today, and I was asking her a little bit about some of the stresses, she indicated that, because my father was diagnosed with IBM when she was so young, she didn't really realize that other households didn't deal with these same sort of situations. So she talked about, lifting the lift to stand equipment and so forth. She didn't really realize until recent years that other kids didn't even know what that was, or why she needed to stop a telephone conversation with her friend so that she could go and run and get water for her grandfather if she heard a cough. So there is a level of stress, certainly, that they have to undergo. And thankfully, they're resilient. I think she raised a point with me, which was that she would do it all over again if she could have another day with her grandfather. So I think it's just the commitment that we have for our loved ones.
Wanted to say if anybody in the audience would like to put a question in the Q&A, whether that's for Natasha or Mariel, you are more than welcome. Natasha, I'm going to bring you back on with us and add a pin, and the three of us will just have a conversation. Mariel, you were talking about the listening to Natasha talk, and was this the sleep that resonated the most with you, or was it something else? And I will say I am ex-military and I definitely get my full 8. I don't know what your dad had going on. I mean, I do know that can be a military thing, but I'm with you. Let's get the full 8, right? But anyway, talk a little bit about what impressions you had hearing Natasha's speech.
Yes, I think she raised excellent points. I think what is really important, which we did, was really taking advantage of all of the care partner team and thinking of it as a hub. And so we had a home health nurse, and we were blessed to have these resources, but it didn't come to us. We had to seek them out. And I can honestly say I was my father's strongest and best advocate, because I was constantly researching what resources might be available and how we would secure them. But we had speech therapy and occupational therapy and physical therapy and a home health nurse and a medical aide and a mental health professional. As well as his, doctors and neurologists and rheumatologists and so forth. So all of those components really are integral to helping to ensure that the care partner, I think, has as much support as they can, because we cannot do everything as much as we would want. And so I think that's really important. And one item that I wanted to also share that I was remiss in, we tried to incorporate laughter as much as possible and moments of joy in our lives, because inclusion body myositis is difficult. It's difficult to see your loved one really see their musculature atrophy before you. It's difficult for them to deal with that and to face the frustration and fears and so forth. And I think we all realize that in this household and try to approach it from a holistic perspective as much as possible. Our faith, just having joy in little things, going outside, sitting together, fresh air, nature, and so forth. And those were the things that helped me too. So if I were spending some time with my father outside, I could benefit from appreciating those moments of nature and so forth. Granted, some things that were discontinued of social life, there's some things like that really my lifestyle didn't have much balance. But again, it was a choice I had to make at that time to help to take care of my dad in the best way that I could and to take care of my family. So it's worth it.
Well, I wanted to say your dad also did his part. I mean, I had the honor of meeting him. He was a veteran that would come to our military veterans with myositis affinity group when I was leading it. And I remember I called Mariel once and she was saying, as I was talking to her dad didn't know I was on the phone, but he was talking to his healthcare provider, bragging about the military veterans group and how much he was enjoying it. He was just a light. And we do miss him. He was a great man. And I appreciate the fact that you're still involved with the community, even though he has passed. So thank you. We had a question, Mariel. Did the VA help out with your dad if he was close to a VA facility?
Wonderful question. No, but that was my dad's choice. And that he did utilize the VA benefits to go to law school after he was in Vietnam. And so he utilized it then, but he did not use any of the veterans benefits from that point forward. However, his commitment to the veteran community and to the military was very strong. And the final years of his life, we were working very diligently, and we still are, in his honor on some veteran related projects. So, but I think he just felt that he had the means to be able to move forward without utilizing those benefits, and he wanted to leave those benefits for his brethren.
Natasha, I wanted to ask you if you had any follow-up thoughts you wanted to share after hearing Mariel's testimony.
Yes, absolutely. I would say I did forget to include, and I'm glad that you brought that up. For some people, a faith base is incredibly important. And oftentimes, if you are part of some kind of faith community, that can be an incredible source of support. For folks that believe in prayer, sometimes that's an incredibly powerful thing. And that's another thing you can ask people to do for you. And a lot of people are happy to participate in that. And the importance of laughter is huge. And I would say kind of hand in hand with laughter also is gratitude. We know based on however many studies they've done at this point, gratitude is a big thing. And we tend to think of gratitude as being these huge things that we have to notice. But, it could be that somebody was able to, get through a day without being in as much pain. Or maybe there was a scan that came back that had some positive news associated with it. Maybe you watched a beautiful sunset together. And so it is important to kind of slow down a little bit and just kind of soak in those moments. Sometimes it helps to write them down. I do encourage clients to keep like a gratitude jar or gratitude journal. And when you do have those tougher times, you have a written record that you can reflect upon. So those were just some of the thoughts that came to my mind as you were sharing.
One of the things I really appreciated you saying, it was about making the appointments you need to make for yourself and having a separate care team for yourself, because it is just so easy to overlook that. And you know, if you don't like put that in your Google Calendar as a reminder, I need a dental cleaning at this month, go ahead and schedule it. You can, you know, blink and then it's been 2 years and you haven't, you know, taken care of that part. And so that's very important, I think. But I know that it can be overwhelming to think about all the things that we need to do and then more things we need to do in order to do these other things we need to do, correct? So that brings up the concept of respite. Mariel, did you guys use respite in any way, or what are your opinions on respite? I know that there are programs out there.
We did not utilize a formalized program. However, we did try to rotate within our family, within our household. So some time away at the beach or a little trip my daughter and I would take, and then we would relieve my mom and she would take one with her sister. We would try to rotate that. And as well as for my father, I would try to take him on day trips as well, because I think to get out of the household, even for the patient, is really important as much as you can. So we did try to take advantage of opportunities to get some rest.
Good. Natasha, we had a comment, a question about your thoughts on mindfulness breathing.
So there's a couple of different things. So there's deep breathing, and then there's also mindfulness. And mindfulness is this concept of really being present in the present moment and fully engaging with all of your senses. And for everybody, that looks very differently. I will say that what science tells us is that engaging in some kind of mindful practice is very beneficial to mental health. And there are a lot of free resources available out there for you to be able to do that. I most recently worked for, it's not a free resource, but I did most recently work for Headspace Health. And Headspace is actually a meditation app. Dara also says sitting in the sun can be mindful. But Headspace actually gives you really nice opportunities to participate in meditation. Doesn't have to be an hour. A lot of people think that if you're going to meditate, you have to sit for an hour. You can meditate for a minute. And when I encourage clients to start engaging in meditation, I tell them don't start with more than 5 minutes. A lot of people struggle with that. And so just start with 5 minutes. You want to be successful at it and not start with like doing an hour. Honestly, even if you start your morning before you get out of bed and you do 1 minute of deep breathing, like set a timer on your phone, breathe in through your nose, hold it, and exhale out like you're blowing out a candle. And you just do that for a minute. It will reset your nervous system. It's free. You can do it whenever you need to. And it's a really nice way to continue to be present in your life. It's free, and you can do that whenever you need to. So that's a really good one that I encourage folks to participate in.
All right. Well, thank you both so much. Do we have any final comments that you would like to leave? Advice for Mariel? Do you have advice for others?
I think just to be mindful of the fact that one person cannot carry all of what inclusion body myositis brings. So just to make sure we utilize those resources as much as possible and just enjoy the time together. Don't forget how important that is.
Thank you. Natasha?
I would say don't forget to take care of you. That's the most important thing, because honestly, the better able you are to take care of you, the better able you're going to be able to take care of your loved one, the better a care partner you're going to be. And there's no It doesn't mean that you're neglecting your loved one if you're taking care of you. It actually means that you're going to be a more present care partner for them. I give you permission if you need permission. I'll write you a letter.
Thank you so much. All right, Mariel and Natasha, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story, Mariel, and your expertise. Natasha, we appreciate you and we look forward to our next webinar. Just be checking out the Myositis events calendar and see what's coming up next week. All right, have a nice night.
Take care, everyone.